morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning, it's on urban farming. There is a fresh food revolution that's happening, not just in rural areas or the suburbs. It's happening in our urban cities around the country, our neighborhoods, and our own backyards. It has evolved out of the basic need that every person should have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and these urban gardens actually create opportunities to involve the community, and they help reduce the risk of conditions like heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and more. My first guest, she's the executive director of Alice's Garden, Miss Venice Williams. How are you?
I'm fine.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It is that time of year. People are cleaning up the garden space and things are starting to bud and bloom, and I'm so happy to have you here to tell us more about Alice's Garden. So it's named after someone very special, right?
Right. So it's named after Alice Mead Taylor, who was the first African-American director of Milwaukee Cooperative Extension. And when she died suddenly, the garden was named in her honor because it was a project that she really loved.
Okay. And so how long has the garden been around, and how did it all get started?
So the garden has been around since 1972.
Wow.
The land was vacant due to the freeway that was never built. So its original design was a community garden for the neighborhood. It was 3 acres. It is now 2.2 acres. It is part of Milwaukee County Parks and Johnson's Park. It's just that 20th Street runs through it.
Okay, so exactly where is it located?
Yes, 2136 North 21st Street is where the main entrance is. But if you're coming down Fond du Lac Avenue, you hit 20th Street, you see the big fence, and there we are.
You can't miss it,
Can't miss it. Although people say they miss it all the time.
Really?
You can't miss it.
So what I love is that there is a rich history that goes back to what, the 1800s when dealing with this piece of land?
Right. I mean, for us, we always begin to tell the story with our Native sisters and brothers who occupied that land, who cared for and tended to the land. But when Milwaukee was founded, one of the founding fathers, Deacon Samuel Brown, that land and all of the 40 acres surrounding it was his property. He was an abolitionist, so very much about all things free and equity and justice. So in the summer of 1842, when he gave safe harbor to Carolyn Quarles, a 16-year-old freedom seeker from St. Louis, Missouri, and as she went from safe house to safe house, this land and others became part of the birthplace of the Underground Railroad in the state of Wisconsin.
Wow, a rich, rich history for sure. And it's kind of ironic that it was 40 acres, right?
Right.
We think about
still want the mule, but yeah.
Yes. So from your experience and with your expertise, why is urban farming or community gardening so important?
Right, because we've always done it. So one of the things that I always like to make clear to people is that there's nothing new about this. You know, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Everyone in my family farmed and gardened, and to this day, my family still has gardens and farms. So number one, we've always known how to feed ourselves. What's going on now is just we're inviting more generations, the younger generations, and for people whose family, when they migrated to Milwaukee during the Great Migration, because of some of the other historical trauma that happens and has happened related to land and soil, there were families who just stepped away from gardening and farming. We are inviting people back and helping them to understand not just farming and health, but ethnobotany, you know, our relationship between plants and people, and that we come from a folk grounded in the ability to grow food and to feed ourselves.
Wow, you put that so nicely. And a wise person once said that we might think that we're nurturing our garden, but of course it's our garden that's really nurturing us. So there are a long list of things that happen in Alice's Garden that really go beyond the growing of food, right?
Right. We like to say that we use gardening as the carrot, pun intended, to get people to come through the gates to impact their entire quality of life. So whether it is our Tuesday evening yoga in the garden class that has been going on for 12 years, that's free to the community, our Brown Boys Bonding Through Books Thursday evening program, our market, our culinary classes, and of course we do grow food.
Yes.
But it really is about using this outdoor campus. We consider it an outdoor learning campus that is based in the environment, environmental education, farming education, but wellness and family wholeness.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing, and I can only imagine, the scene of people with their yoga mats, kind of meditating with all of this beauty around them, really embracing everything that nature gives us, and what a perfect space for yoga, my goodness.
Right, it's wonderful. And that space where yoga happens also transforms on one Friday evening a month to our family movie night.
Okay.
Right next to the yoga area is our herbal labyrinth. So we're doing meditation and healing walks almost every day in the garden.
Wow.
So what really matters to us also is that people understand you don't have to leave the city to find calm. You don't have to leave the city to be replenished and nourished. You just have to come to spaces that have been birthed to hold you and to care for you, both what you eat and how you live.
Yeah, and just come with that frame of mind, knowing that that is the ultimate goal, is to relax, relate, release, right?
There you go, there you go.
So your yoga is from June to September?
June through September.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you mentioned you've got your summer artisan market. So tell us more about that.
So on Tuesday evenings in the garden, right before yoga and even during yoga, there are at least 6 to 12, depending upon the Tuesday, local entrepreneurs and local makers who are selling their wares in the garden. Also on Tuesday evenings, that's when our cooking classes and gardening classes take place. And some of our drumming happens, our drumming courses and classes happen after yoga. So we relax you and then we get you riled up.
Yes, nothing wrong with
So a
that.
lot goes on Tuesday nights within the garden.
And you have what's called sacred circles of healing. I'm really interested in hearing more about that.
So we're going to start the Sacred Circles of Healing this summer with, I'm calling the women together on whatever that Friday is, right on Memorial Day weekend, because there are so many of us who are doing this work and we need to know how to support one another. But then they continue with my life partner and I, we will be doing circles every other week in the garden, also on Thursday evenings, while Brown Boys Bonding Through Books is going on. So the young men will be doing their thing and we're inviting adults to come in and to really look at those things in our lives that we need to pay attention to.
Okay, so when you talk about healing, what are some of the things that you're focused on, because that can come from so many different aspects?
So the first one is creating calm in the urban context. So when we get into summer, everyone's out, the sirens rev up, the noise revs up, right? The arguments, unfortunately. And so we really want to offer the community rituals, things that you can do in your own space to claim some of that calm. One of the gatherings is for couples only. So my husband and I will be looking at, we'll be sharing some of the things that we do and some of the things we should do. Right? But looking at those rituals that you should do to nourish your relationship. We're looking at one of the sacred circles is about caring for, the earth. We've just finished with Earth Day, a couple of weeks ago. And so to talk about what it means for us to be in relationship with all of creation. And those are just a few of the things that we'll be looking at. One will be a parenting, sacred parenting. We don't think about parenting always as sacred, but it's both a blessing and a burden, right? Parenting's a lot of work, yes.
Depending on how old they are.
I promise you, no matter how old they are. It's both. So just inviting people in the urban context to develop more healing and healthy rituals.
Okay, and I wanted to mention a couple other things. You have job programs for teenagers, and then also your farmers training project, Seeds, Soil, and Soul. I just love everything, just sounds calming.
Seed, Soil, and Soul is my new baby. It is an adult training program, stipend for adults only. So we spend a lot of time with the young people, which is needed and necessary. But if we're not doing the same for the adults in the community, then we're missing the mark. So it's actually a re-entry program. We're partnering with Project Return. Right now, they're in the midst of some life skills work, and then they'll be coming into the garden working 20 hours a week. But along with learning how to farm, learning about bee farming, learning about so many different aspects of farming, we've created a rites of passage program. So we can tell people they can eat healthy and live healthy, but if we're not unpacking all of those other issues that are keeping them from living that life abundantly, then again, we're missing the point.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about Seed, Soil, and Soul, and it's just one of our farmers training projects.
And they can go to your website to kind of get information on all of these things,
Yes,
right?
indeed,
Okay.
indeed.
And this is the thing. You
Here we
are
go.
very well aware of just really caring for the environment. You have the rain barrels. You have dealt with the concept of recycling with having recycling stations. But I loved in everything I was reading about, it said, bring your water bottle, but please don't allow it to be plastic.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
that's just being woke in every sense of the
That's
word,
right. You know, we want you to be nourished, but we want you to care for the earth in the midst of that.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
So before we run out of time, there are a number of programs that are going on. If you want to mention a few of those, and then of course we'll send everybody to the website to get the further details.
Sure, yes. So we are really inviting people to come out on, I believe it's Monday, June 17th. We read collectively aloud the book Seed Folks. If you haven't read Seed Folks, you want to come, you can do it in one sitting. Sometimes there are 15 people, sometimes there are 150 people. But it really sets the framework for everything, what it means to come together from all these different backgrounds and not just cultivate a garden, but cultivate community. Again, we talked about Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we actually have a worshiping community in the garden called The Table. So we're there from 6 to 8. We feed you, we feed both your soul and your body. So a lot of people come out for the table. And then there are always work days and volunteer opportunities.
Yes, don't
work
leave
days,
that
work
out.
days. We don't want to leave that out.
Yeah.
It is 2.2 acres. It's a lot to take care of. There are 100 rental gardeners in the garden, and so they tend to their plots, but there's a whole lot of other space. So we encourage people to come out, to touch the soil, to let the soil heal you as you're planting food or pulling weeds. But more importantly, it really is about bringing people out of isolation and getting to know Milwaukee in a way that they may never have experienced Milwaukee before.
Yeah, and what's most important, research shows that community gardens can increase social bonds and networks among neighbors and the people who participate in the farming. So I read that you had said that you witnessed maybe individuals who had moved here as refugees from places like Syria, and they come to the garden and they're able to feel more like being home because of everything that the garden creates. Right?
That's right. No matter where you lived or where you come from, you had to eat.
Yeah.
And a lot of people grew food. So food connects us all in ways that we sometimes overlook.
It really does, and I appreciate you coming by and just really shining a light on all the great things that you're doing in Alice's garden. And of course, there are lots of people that already know about it, but for those who are enlightened, you are welcoming them to come by, check it out, get their hands dirty, whatever the case, you are there.
Right, yes. You can come and just sit and enjoy. So yeah,
Okay,
thank you for letting us share.
Thank you so much, and
All right, you're
continued
welcome.
blessings.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
Venice Williams is the executive director of Alice's Garden. For more information on what we've discussed, you can follow them on Facebook at Alice's Garden, visit their website at alicesgardenmke.com, or give them a call at 414-687-0122. When we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we'll speak with another urban farmer who reminded his Northside neighborhood that we got this. We'll catch up with Andrea Lee Ellis right after this.